Welcome to the Nerd Party.
They can travel anywhere in time and space.
Off we go into time and space!
So all of time and all of space is sitting out there.
Welcome to Time and Space, one married couple's adventure through the Doctor Who universe. I'm Jessica Nunn.
And I'm her constant companion, Phillip Gilfus.
Constant companion. So, this week, we are talking about... Oh, before we get to what we're talking about this week, we have important things to talk about.
I know. It's not often we get to talk about breaking Doctor Who news, since things have sort of been quiet since the Christmas special, but things are starting to move a little bit. And I'm glad we sort of delayed our recording this week, because this was today of a lot of news came out.
Yes. First of all, they've released... What, a teaser?
Yeah, I don't know what to call it. I guess teaser. I mean, what else would you call it? It's certainly not a trailer, so teaser,
No.
I guess, is the only other word you would use. But yeah, they released a teaser. It's basically like 13 seconds, basically of the TARDIS. Actually, I couldn't tell it was the TARDIS at first, but of the TARDIS zooming through space to reveal a new logo.
Yes.
I shared with you the video and then the logo, and then they sort of played with it a little bit. They sort of had the logo, then they had this sort of tableau of the 13th Doctor in profile, looking at the TARDIS in the far background, and the new logo. So what'd you think of all that?
I thought that the teaser itself, boy, that was a little bit much.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've changed the logo, they've changed the music, they've changed the color, and I really like the color, and I'm sad about that. And I'm also sad to lose sort of the steampunky feel that it's had for a while.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting in a few ways. I mean, first, I guess up front, I do like it all. No complaints at all. But it does seem very, almost as if they're taking a little bit of the sci-fi stuff out. That it's just sort of very, like it's a dramatic, logo. Like it could be anything.
Yes.
I mean, not anything, but I mean, it definitely sees something like fantastical, but it's not the sort of blue.
Timey-wimey. But,
Mm-hmm.
and first of all, I think that that's probably right up Chris Chibnall's alley in terms of the dramatic side of it. I suspect that that's something that he's going to focus on a little bit more anyway. I do wonder, particularly looking at this picture of the 13th Doctor in shadow, looking at the TARDIS, which is far away, I wonder if that's a clue, because of course at the end of the Christmas episode when she becomes she falls out of the TARDIS,
Right.
and so I wonder if there's going to be this theme of her trying to make her way back to the TARDIS or something like that.
And I did notice, and of course this is probably reading too much into it, but in a lot of the press materials that came out of the BBC today, they keep using the phrase New Dawn, and which could just be a buzz phrase, we just that Doctor Who is new and it's fresh, and in case there's folks who haven't been with the franchise or have stepped away from it, or whatever. It's that you always want to bring in new audience. But with the picture, it is sort of dawn,
Yes,
which may just be a purposeful.
And again, the teaser is sort of more reds and oranges and yellows
Less
instead
blues
of the
and
blue
purples.
and black, and so all of that seems to be pointing. Of course, we have been hearing rumors about the filming that has already been taking place.
Yes, I thought it was sort of. I don't think anyone was really reacting this way, but there was sort of a minor shock that they weren't filming in Cardiff, that they were filming in Sheffield.
Yeah, that sounds right.
For just a brief time.
Yeah, they do end up going back to Cardiff.
Yeah, don't worry.
Panic.
Don't worry. Yeah, because I think they were then later filming in front of Cardiff University. So, everyone's like, no, what's happening?
Yeah.
So many changes.
But I think the TARDIS was there.
Right.
So my suggestion that part of this is going to be spending time looking for the TARDIS may be completely off. I'm just making wild guesses, and we will have to continue to make wild guesses because the other rumor, of course, is that they're not actually going to start airing episodes until
October.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I haven't actually seen an official BBC source, but I feel like it's enough around that I'm going to go with it. that yes, October seems to be there's no official date, but just says October 2018.
So while we were hoping that it would start in August and be a lovely birthday present for me,
it's a birthday present for me.
It's a birthday present for you, and I don't think that's fair.
I think it is,
but it does mean that I don't have to buy you anything, so that's exciting.
Exactly. So yeah, I wonder how long it will be till we get a little bit of a trailer, because obviously they're doing filming. I'm sure it's not the first episode, though maybe it is. For what do I know? And
you know nothing.
Exactly.
That's a different show. Never mind.
So yeah, but it's very exciting. I don't know, because I sort of maybe felt this to myself that like maybe everything was just in shutdown mode for 4 months, which of course maybe was silly to think. But
I imagine there's a lot of technical stuff, so I imagine they need to get the live filming out of the way and into the can pretty quickly, so then they can add all of the special effects and the special effects.
Well, and there's been, and I'm not saying I keep abreast of all Doctor Who news, but the sort of the quote unquote big news was that Murray Gold, longtime composer of Doctor Who, has left. And that there's a lot of people behind the scenes, people who are sort of have transitioned out now. And so I think there definitely does seem to feel this like it's going to be not a reset button, because of course it's still Doctor Who, and Chris Chibnall has been involved in Doctor Who. This isn't his first go around with the franchise, but I think there is sort of a refreshing, which I think is fine. I again hate to go back to my own franchise, but like Star Trek, which I love, and I love many of its iterations, but the same people did stay around for a long time behind the scenes, which is good because I love them, but it would have been nice if maybe you got a refresh with Enterprise or something. And of course, now in Discovery, it's a whole bunch of new people, so you get that new taste. But it is Doctor Who is such a big franchise. You don't want to stay too long at the dance.
No, absolutely, and I have to, because I'm a traditionalist at heart. I am the person who, as soon as Christopher Eccleston gets ready to leave, I'm like, no, I will never love another Doctor. And then I'm like, I love David Tennant. And then when he gets ready to leave, I'm like, no, I can't love anyone. And I've been very excited about Jodie Whittaker, but there's a part of me that's going, why are all these people leaving me? But I agree with your suggestion that it's not a bad thing. It's just something that I personally struggle with and probably should spend a little bit of time in therapy about. So I'm working through it.
But I do like, Doctor Who does force you to change. There's always a new companion or a new villain or a new Doctor. And so it's just built in to this franchise that there's change built in. There's no choice. Yes,
without being too, again, you still have, like we talked about last week, you still have the callbacks, the canon that reappears every now and then, which, I think settles my nerves a little bit.
I thought it was pretty neat to see people post on Twitter the different photos they'd taken with Jodie, and I don't know if they got any of the other actors or companions, but they were certainly one or two, I think, that I saw. Because obviously it's what's allowed, but I thought it was definitely cool to see people get and actually meet their fans and everything.
Yeah, and it must be, from Jodie Whittaker's perspective, a mind-boggling. I mean, she has appeared on screen as Doctor Who for 17 seconds, something ridiculously brief, and already she has this built-in fan base. And I imagine, being the first woman, she's got a lot of pressure too.
Really? You think so?
Yeah. I think that's got to be. It is a heavy task she has taken on, and I think she's absolutely great for it. But
heavy is the hand that holds the sonic screwdriver.
Yes. How very Shakespearean of you, darling.
Mm-hmm. And I know there was a big convention this past week, Gallifrey 1. I've never been to it personally, but that's over in LA every year. And we're currently working behind the scenes to maybe have a report from someone who was at Galley 1, I suppose, as the kids call it. So we're looking forward to that. Is a hashtag. And so,
it's a terrible hashtag.
So, hopefully we'll have that for you listeners maybe next week or sometime soon.
But again, before we move on, one of my favorite pictures from that you showed me was this little tiny girl in the 13th Doctor costume, and I just think that's so exciting and so wonderful. And yay!
Yeah, girls can play Doctor. Not that they didn't before, but they can play the Doctor now.
Hopefully that will bring in a new audience. All right, so let's talk about what we intended to talk about. We've gone completely off-piste. And what are we talking about today, my darling?
Since this is our 11th episode, I think it's only fitting that we talk about the 11th Doctor. Now, we're not going to talk about Matt Smith, though I'm sure his character will come up. We actually want to talk about his companions. Now, we already covered the 10th Doctor's companions in episode 7, but as I said, this is our 11th episode, so let's talk the 11th Doctor companions.
Did you plan that, or is that just, hey, look what happened?
It's all part of a plan.
Yeah. Do not believe him. He's telling big lies.
So now you were, of course, I don't want to say the midst. I mean, I don't know if you're past the midst. You're 2/3, I guess, of the way in your 11th Doctor rewatch.
Oh, yeah. I'm more than 2/3 of the way through, because I am in the last season.
Right.
And, in fact, I'm halfway through the last season, because I just watched the mid-season Christmas special. So he doesn't officially have Clara as a companion yet. Just
the mini iterations, which we will get into. But first, I believe in chronological order, so let's start at the beginning with the very young Ginger.
Amelia Pond.
Like in a fairy tale.
Yes.
So, of course, this was, I think, always a unique thing. I mean, not to the 11th Doctor, but you don't often get a fresh start. We were talking about fresh starts for the 13th Doctor, but the 11th Doctor, this was a fresh start. And it's the same thing that we're doing now. New showrunner, new everything, or new most things, I suppose. But, so this is a companion that's not a handover. This is just the Doctor starting new with a new companion and everything new. And so we meet this little girl, and then we meet her all grown up. And then, of course, is Amy Pond, played by Karen Gillan. And there's a lot of special things about Amy that I think sets her apart from maybe other companions we've seen.
Okay.
Well, she's Scottish.
Yes.
Not that is the only one, possibly.
Well, Jamie was Scottish.
That's true. That's right. But she's just not wearing a kilt to constantly remind you in case you forgot.
That's true. That's true. The red hair and the accent, though, tip me off every time.
And I think I was thinking about this today. So, obviously, Karen, not bad on the eyes. I think she is I think she's more than this. But I think she is part of one of the many things that she is. She sort of brought a little sexy part to the companion, I wasn't used to seeing that much skin on a companion since the 4th Doctor's Leela, who was basically just wearing a rag and a stone knife. So Amy's basically like all legs, which I think the Doctor once introduced her as legs.
Well, and I was just going to say, I think part of that's because she's taller.
Right.
So I think that, in particular, Rose probably didn't dress too far off the way that Amy does. But because Amy's so tall.
Yeah, Amy's a little bit more mini skirts and shorts than I ever pictured Rose was more baggy jeans.
Yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm. But anyway, I think it was sort of because Matt was young, Karen's young, so it was all very young. But I don't know, what else did you think about Amy, not only in her introduction, but throughout the series?
I really love the introduction. Fish fingers and custard. Obviously, that's the obvious choice, which I've never had, by the way, and I'm okay with that. Sounds vile.
Kissogram.
The kissogram. Yes, I like Amy. I think I like, because there's always, you have to consider, because it happens, and we've seen it time and time again, particularly with the contemporary companions, that there is occasionally this romance.
I was thinking about this today. With Amy, I don't know if it's necessarily like a Martha. I think Amy's just young. And as the kids say, up for a laugh. So I don't know that she falls for the Doctor per se, but she's just, even though she's engaged.
But I think that that's part of it, is that there's always a little bit of sexual tension or romantic tension.
Right.
Sexual seems wrong.
Well, she doesn't make out with him.
But a little bit of romantic tension between the two of them. But then there are at least 2 moments, and maybe more than that, where she's telling some bad guy or telling somebody, he's going to come for me. He's going to save me. There is one man who will search heaven and earth and he will save me. And he's my husband. And so she always brings it back to Rory. Mm-hmm. And of course, their ending, their last episode with the Doctor is about them being together.
Amy strikes me, and I don't know, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think, to me, she's the first companion that we see grow in life. Like, in other words, I think character-wise, we see other companions grow. Rose becomes a little bit more mature. Martha experiences these adventures. We talked about Donna before. Unfortunately, that really pressed the reset button, but she got more confident and all this stuff. But I think with Amy, we literally see her... We see her literally growing up from little girl to a woman, but then we see her engaged. We literally see her getting married. We get to see her pregnant and having a child. We get to see her different careers.
We ultimately, see more of her real life than we have with any of the others. Even though we do get Rose's mom and we get Donna's granddad and we do see some of that home life, we see much more of Amy and Rory's home life. And, whether or not that has anything to do with River Song, there's a certain amount that you have to do in order to bring in that whole story and make it work. I don't know.
Because I thought it was an interesting storytelling, because you sort of have your typical Doctor and the young companion swinging about having adventures. But then when you did bring in Rory, and we can talk about him for a second, but when you brought in Rory and you sort of had the Doctor basically like, hey, matchmaking or, reminding, hey, this is the guy you're engaged to who you left on your wedding night for me, and then when they got married, then you had this married couple, and it's not that same dynamic where you've kind of had, even with Donna, there's not that there was sexual tension, but you always had sort of a little bit of whatever going on. But when you have a married couple and the Doctor, who's the third wheel? And of course, they played it that often. Was Rory the third wheel? Was the Doctor But I think, as you said, it does bring back that Amy is with her husband, Rory. And then when you sort of had them kind of on again, off again in real life, or in their real lives, of not always traveling, making the decision, maybe it's time to stay home, or should we go? And they sort of just did the part-time companion bit,
Yes.
And then when she got pregnant with Melody, and then obviously all those hijinks happen. But then that sort of just brings that real life. And then, as you said, with Angels Take Manhattan, their last episode, they're sort of like a, young, settled couple. I don't know what the right word is, and they're just, have these settlement adventures. Of course, the power of three, I think, brings that home as well.
Yes. Yeah, of course, when the Doctor comes to stay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I did like them bringing in Rory's dad, Brian, because I thought he was sort of played an interesting role. It is one of my favorite moments. I wish I could find that YouTube clip of when it's I think maybe 2/3 of the way through the episode when they come home and they're in the middle of a party and they've left and they've come back and Brian's like, they've changed clothes. I know they've been gone. And he stops the Doctor and says, what's happened to all the other people you've traveled with? Mm. And the Doctor has to say, some left. There's some, not many, but some who died. And, Brian basically has to, promises that nothing will ever happen to them. And,
Yeah, that doesn't work out so well, but whatevs.
So let's give Rory a couple seconds. What do you think of Rory?
Yeah.
Rory Williams.
Yeah.
Or Rory Pond, possibly.
Possibly Rory Pond, yeah. He's a little bit like Ricky Mickey.
Yes.
In terms
he starts off that way.
The befuddled. I think even towards the end, he has those befuddled moments. I think that he grows more. Mm-hmm.
The Centurion.
When he waits, for 2,000 years for Amy, those sorts of things.
And I can't even be bothered to wait 10 minutes sometimes for you.
Oh, I know. And I just don't. I leave your ass. Mm-hmm. That's what I do. Yeah, I like Rory. He's a little bit puppy dog. Mm-hmm. He's just the loyal guy who's just going to stand there and wait if he has to. And I think that that's lovely.
And interesting things, to play into stereotypes. He's a nurse, right? Which leads to some ribbing, that's a girl job. But I think even though he plays this, not submissive role, but you know what I'm trying to say, non-dominant role compared to the swishbuckling Doctor, But
the swishbuckling doctor?
Yes.
You're going to have to edit
There was
that
a
out.
Pirates episode, you remember that?
Yeah, but we're still going to call it a swashbuckler, darling.
But I think with Roy, he still has these skills. And there's stuff, I forget what episode where he's like, maybe he was with his dad on dinosaurs on a spaceship or something, where he's like, remember, I'm a nurse, remember? And that he does have like these moments of like, he's not an idiot. I mean, he's just, he isn't pure comic relief.
No.
He's capable. I mean, yeah, he has these dim moments, which make him fun and sort of adorable, I guess. But he's at the core, he
has a real strength, absolutely, and a real determination, and just a real love for Amy, which I think is really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And they lived together as man and wife in 30s, 40s New York.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so
a while back, but yeah. Interestingly enough, speaking of Chris Chibnall, the part of the priest in Broadchurch was specifically designed for Arthur Darvill.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that interesting because he, as much as I love him as Rory, and it's the only other thing I think I've seen him in, he doesn't necessarily strike me as the kind of actor you go, oh my gosh, I've got to create a role for.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just be interested in knowing
how that happened.
How that came about. Is it just they're good friends and if I'm working, you're working kind of thing, or I'm just curious about that.
And then I don't watch it, so I'm not an expert, but I know he's in Legends of Tomorrow on the CW.
Oh, yes, of course.
So he's sort of making it in America, which is not always easy.
Not always easy.
Or the transition from British TV and theater. But anyway. So yeah, Amy is the only companion action figure I currently own. So.
Oh, we're going to have to get a Clara.
I guess.
Oh, and we're definitely going to need a Bill. Definitely going to need a Bill.
Well, you said her name, so let's move on to Clara. Well, I do want to say for a second, we did mention...
No, stop talking.
We did mention Melody Pond, so River Song. I do feel like, and I know you do too, she deserves her own episode.
Absolutely.
So we are not going to go into her.
We're not talking about her now, yeah.
I did have a poll, which I guess I'll talk about this now. I did throw up a poll, as I always do, on the Nerd Party Twitter, which is @Join Nerd Party. And I asked who the favorite companions of the 11th Doctor were.
Wow.
And one response I did get, because I did, the options I gave were Amy, Clara, River, and then I always give a fourth option for write-in. And someone did reply, like, River's not a companion. She's above that. So
yes, and I would agree with that. I would agree with that. But boy, Amy won by a landslide.
So what were the results, darling?
75% of the people who took the poll thought Amy was the best companion.
Mm-hmm.
8% thought Clara, and 17% thought River Song, although again, I agree with the person who commented and said, River's not a companion.
Mm-hmm.
She's a wife. That's different.
Apparently more than Clara, though. So
yes, but more of a companion than Clara, which I found really interesting because I really like Clara with the 11th Doctor.
Right, and I know this is a point of contention with I was going to say with you, with us, that Clara as the 11th Doctor companion versus Clara as the 12th Doctor companion, which we're not talking about. We're talking about the 11th Doctor.
But
that there is a difference. We think so anyway. Maybe you disagree with us, folks. But anyway, so played by Jenna Coleman, though she was Jenna Louise Coleman, I remember in the beginning. I don't know why the middle name got dropped. But anyway, or the hyphenated first name.
Maybe the actual Jenna, the original Jenna Coleman, because it's a SAG thing. I don't know if it's the same in England, but you have to have different names and all of that.
Speaking of different names, she played many things. I guess we're going to go with Clara Oswin Oswald, but there were Oswin, there was Clara's, there was whatever. So, I don't know. Are we talking about, which Clara are we talking about?
The impossible girl.
Right. Now, of course, Amy was the girl who waited.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm a fan of women being mysteries you have to solve that Moffat has written, but whatever. So anyway, but Clara. So, we first met her, I guess, it sort of was a Donna experience for me, that we first met her in, I believe it's Asylum of the Daleks. I may have that episode title wrong.
That sounds right. Yeah.
But anyway,
the first episode of the last Matt Smith season.
And I'm trying to remember. I think we knew going in that she was going to be the new companion. I feel like we did. Like it was announced, like, oh, she's going to be the new, even though I think Amy and Roy had half that series.
Yes.
But anyway.
Up until the Christmas episode.
But of course, you watch that first episode, like, oh, she's the new, oh, she's dead? But you said she, what? And so you had that, like, what? What? And then halfway through the series.
At Christmas time.
With the snowman, which you recently saw, right?
Yes. Yeah, that's the one I watched today. And I really like that one. And I love Clara in it. But she's this sort of Victorian bar girl / nanny. And she's just spunky and delightful, and the doctor who is in mourning after losing Amy and Rory, and is like, no, I'm never helping anybody again, I'm not opening my heart up. And then of course Clara being delightful and spunky, and he's like, yes, you're the next person I want to travel with, here's my key, come travel with me. And she dies again. But before she dies, she says to him exactly the same thing that Oswin said before she died.
Run, you clever boy, and remember.
Yes.
So then we go to the Bells of St. John when we meet, I don't know, Prime Clara? Is that what we want to call her?
Yeah.
But, you know, when you get a little there were some extras, episodes that weren't on the TV show, so, you know, kind of teasing this mystery girl who keeps popping up in the Doctor's life. And
there's one bit that I haven't gotten to yet where there's a little girl on a swing.
Yes, that's one of the extras, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you know, we won't go through her life history, but we sort of have, you know, her parents meeting with the Leaf and all this, you know, interesting stuff. But with Clara, she keeps playing these roles of the nanny, because she was watching young children at that time, and she eventually would become a teacher in her run.
Yes, of course.
And so she sort of plays that role. And I don't know, I guess we can talk about herself or compare her with Amy, but how do you think Clara is as the very shorter companion for the Doctor?
Yes, she is just a little tiny thing. I just think she's so cute and adorable. And they played well together. That, you know, the little flirtation that still never goes to a romance.
Because I think Clara's a little bit more, well, I was going to say she's more flirty. That's not right. She's differently flirty, because I think Amy is flirty, but of course not really once she gets married. You know, she settles down after that. But I think Clara...
like all women should.
Exactly. But I think with Clara, you know, she always takes it like one comment further, and the Doctor's like, starts to blush and be like, what? You know, and then she just likes embarrassing him, basically.
Yes, and I think the chemistry between the two of them was quite good.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, and she and Peter Capaldi just didn't have it in the same way. Which is, you know, those are the things that happen.
So, but like I said, with Clara, we get her having adventures with the Doctor as well. We get to see her a little bit of growth as well. Almost similar to Amy in that she starts to go part-time Doctor.
Yes, because she's a school teacher. Right,
and she ends up meeting a guy as well, but I think that's a little bit more 12th Doctor-y.
Yes.
So, but anyway, so no spoilers. But anyway, but we get to see her become a teacher there, because that's, you know, with the 50th, you know, she's there teaching and gets a call. I actually think that was the first time we saw her as a teacher, as the 50th. Oh, feel free to correct me, but I feel like, because you sort of had Coal Hill Elementary, which is the callback to Susan Foreman being a student at Coal Hill in the first episode, and of course the Ian and Barbara, the first companions, being teachers as well. So you sort of had that callback to her.
Which again is always fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think with the last episode or Time of the Doctor, 11th last episode, we sort of have the, you know, come and pretend to be my boyfriend, which might be the metaphor for their whole time together. And so, you know,
So yeah, there's Clara.
Mm-hmm. The Impossible Girl.
The Impossible Girl.
Now, I know you want to talk. We don't have to. We know we will always talk about them, but at least just to mention them. I know we can't go without mentioning your favorite trio.
I love them.
You have to say that word for me. What is it?
Paternoster Gang.
The Paternoster Gang, as named after the street, I suppose, where their detective agency is. So that's, of course, Madame Vastra, Jenny Flint, and Strax. So of course right. We meet. Don't we meet them for the first? I mean, again, you could argue that we've met them before, depending on who you think they were as characters. But anyway, because some of the actors play similar aliens. But anyway, it's the first time we meet them as the Snowmen, isn't it?
It is not.
When is it?
The first time we meet them is when we realize who Riversong is.
Oh, because Vastra shows up.
They all show up.
Oh,
Vastra and Jenny are together.
A good man goes to war.
Yes, and they go get Strax is being punished. He's a nurse in the Civil War or some sort of war.
Oh, so a good man goes to war is the first time we meet them. Yeah. Okay. But I guess Christmas...
This is the second time we see them properly.
But that's the first time they're together there.
The three of them, yes. Yeah, we assume they go off together after the whole River Song thing is sort of sorted.
Yeah,
it's all very strange.
Complicated.
And,
as the church can be.
Yes. Yes, and I just love them. Strax is absolutely delightful. The part where he's trying to erase Clara's memory with the little memory worm thing.
Yes.
And the doctor's like, the worm's under the coach, get it for me. And
what glove, sir?
Yeah, Strax touches
what's this boy doing here?
I appear to have been run over by a coach. I just think he's so funny. And he's really, I enjoy seeing him with Matt Smith, because Matt's got such this lovely floppiness to him anyway. And he's like, I'm the clever one and you're the potato. It's lots of fun. So.
Now, what do you think ultimately of, not to go back, but of the Clara explanation? Which she falls into the time stream and meets all the doctors, and that's why we've been meeting her the whole time.
Yeah, it's weird.
Did that sort of...
because it's not really followed.
Yeah, to me, that was the most oddest thing that, it's Doctor Who, this happens, but to me, this is, on the top 5 list of, unresolved Doctor Who stories, because you have the name of the Doctor, if I'm getting that right, where she falls into the time stream. And I do love that episode, because you get the beginning where they're sort of foreshadowing that she's fallen in, and you see her meeting the first Doctor and recommending that he choose the other TARDIS. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And then you can still see at the end, or beginning and end possibly, of the bookends of that episode, all the different Doctors encountering with her. And I always love classic scenes to be thrown in there. Then, you have the very, very end where she's in the Doctor's time stream, which is a rocky outcrop or something, and whatever. And the Doctor appears because he jumps into his own time stream. Okay, whatever. I'm still there. And then that's when he reveals the War Doctor. But then he's like, "Don't worry, I'll get you out of here." And you're like, "Okay, how did they get out of there?" The next episode's the 50th anniversary, where they're just like, solve that one.
I'm a teacher. Yeah,
I'm like, what?
And I think there are times, and that's one of the times. And I think the origin of River Song is another one of them, that they just sort of skim over this really complicated idea. They spent too much time with the silence and the stupid crack in the wall, and not enough time talking about the fact that Amy's baby was kidnapped.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they have a best friend named Melody, and that's why she named her baby Melody, except it's not. It's Melody, and she's there to kill him, and we don't get any of that, or we haven't yet. Of course, being River Song, we may yet get some of that at some point. But I feel like that whole, oh yeah, hi Mummy and Daddy, it's me, grin, and that's all we've got, really.
And I think, not to keep going back and forth, but just as an unresolved storyline, with Amy, and I think they try to throw in some lines of oh no, well we know that she goes up to be River, it's all right. I'm like, but you're still cool with your baby being kidnapped and not looking for it and being like, oh well, we know she turns out to be River, who cares?
She comes by and visits, and she's a little older than we are, but it's cool. She still calls us Mummy and Daddy.
Yeah. That's...
Yeah, and so, and again, with River, there's an opportunity still to build on that, but I do think that there are times that they take this big, messy, complicated thing and say, fixed now, and we don't get the depth that I would like to.
So I guess an honorary mention, well, I guess we have 2, we don't have to talk about them. There was Craig Owens, played by...
James Corden.
Who appeared twice.
Yes.
The Lodger, and... another episode that I can't remember, but...
The one where he has the baby.
Yeah, baby. Stormageddon, I believe, is the baby's name.
Yeah, well, initially. He changes his mind later on.
So those were both very funny episodes. And I thought Corden played it very well, because he was very... because he's not obviously, he's acting, right? And we know he can, but he's very understated, I think. And there's a lot of physical comedy, which he can do, but he was sort of...
Of course, this is also before James Corden...
Came to America.
And even before that, because The reason he ended up in America was that he was doing One Man, Two Governors on the West End, and that came over to Broadway, and that's, that was the progression for him, and it was before all of that. He had done History Boys. People were familiar with him. He'd done Gavin and Stacey, I think is what it's called, that he did, but wasn't Mahusive in the way that he is now. So
there was Madge and the other Christmas special. It's like the Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. It's not what it's called.
Oh yes,
the Doctor and whatever it's called.
Oh yeah,
anyway.
and the trees. And
and the World War II.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and she was definitely a cool companion.
Oh yeah, she
mother
was
out for her
hardcore,
children.
Yeah, yeah, that's a sweet little episode. I like that one. And he shows up with the helmet on backwards.
Yes. And I think the only other kind of random one was Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, if that was the name of the episode, where he has like Nefertiti and he has like the big game hunter. He has this little gang that it was kind of random, actually, honestly. But so anyway, but yeah. Any final thoughts about how the 11th Doctor, we never had sort of the 10th Doctor by himself, in all of those specials. The 11th Doctor always tend to have someone. Because even when he was being at his lowest, I guess maybe there were a couple points, but when he was being a recluse in Snowman, he was still with the trio.
Yes, they were.
Even if he was
still
up in the sky in the
out
TARDIS
for him. Yeah.
So he's not very much a loner.
No, because he needs. Again, Matt Smith is so delightfully floppy, and he needs somebody there.
Like it reminds me of. Was it The Impossible Astronaut, the premiere of his second series, where it's actually, a future forward, timey-wimey, of course, because it's actually the future 11th Doctor, but he calls all of his people together, and, it's Amy, and it's Rory, and it's River, and himself, it turns out.
And that guy.
Oh, yes, the third. Oh, yeah, that was an interesting companion, because they were played by father and son, very famous, who I'm blanking on their names.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize it was actually father and son.
Yeah, and of course they're very famous, and I just can't remember their names off the top of my head. But yeah, because he had the flash of the older guy, that's his father, who's been in, so many sci-fi things. And of course, the younger version, of course, has been Supernatural and everything else. But anyway.
Yeah, he's fun. I like him.
But, with the 11th Doctor, his tradition, with every Doctor saying goodbye with the companions, with the 11th Doctor, we had, Clara was there present, but we did have the Amy cameo, which is sort of, I guess, his regeneration hallucination.
Of course, yeah.
So we got to say goodbye.
Yeah. Oh, bless their hearts. Right, shall we jump into the TARDIS library?
Yes, we're going to talk about the first appearance of another Doctor companion. Now, someone who the 11th Doctor met for the very first time was Kate Stewart, the head of UNIT. And that was the first time we met that character, played by Gemma Redgrave.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about the first appearance of her father, and that's the Brigadier, which was in The Web of Fear.
Dun, dun, dun.
That premiered the 3rd of February, 1968. It was a 6-episode serial with the second Doctor and his companions. And I will read a quick synopsis from TARDIS.wikia. The TARDIS narrowly avoids becoming engulfed in a cobwebby substance in space. It arrives in the London Underground Railway system, the tunnels of which are being overrun by the web and by the Great Intelligence's robot Yeti. The time travelers learn this crisis was precipitated when a Professor Travers, whom they first met in the Himalayas some 40 years earlier, accidentally caused one of the Yeti to be reactivated, opening the way for the intelligence to invade again. The travelers work alongside army forces, led initially by Captain Knight, and then by Colonel Lethbridge-Stewart, as they battle the alien menace, hampered by the fact that one of their number has fallen under the intelligence's influence and is a traitor in their midst. Now, I know you haven't gotten to meet a lot of the Brigadier, and of course he's not the Brigadier just yet when we first meet him, he's Colonel. So what'd you think of Colonel Lethbridge-Stewart?
Don't think that he was particularly sparkly in this first meeting. He was not somebody you go, oh, that's who the Doctor's going to spend a lot of time with. But he was perfectly functional. Is he with UNIT at the time?
I don't, again, this is where I'd have to wiki it. Sorry, listeners, I'm sure you're smarter than me. I don't know if there is a unit or, anyway, I don't know, because he seems sort of standard army. And I don't know how it evolves from here, so I apologize. We will find out together, darling. So I'm sorry, I'm not bothering to wiki it up. So
yeah, but I like the fact. How long? Most of his time is with the Third Doctor then, correct?
Well, yes, just because I think just because the Third Doctor has the most unit stories being stranded on Earth. But, he's there. He's in the very first Fourth Doctor story. He's there with all of them.
He's in the Three Doctor film.
Exactly. In the Five Doctors as well.
The Five Doctors
film.
Yeah.
And so he's probably playing all of them for all I know.
Yeah.
So, and I believe he's met every Doctor in the classic era. Do not quote me. I might be wrong. But anyway, most of them
not the first.
Yeah, past second.
Past
well, though Nicholas Courtney, I believe that's the actor's name, did actually appear in a First Doctor story, was not playing that character. So he's certainly probably, I don't know, maybe the actor with the longest time in Doctor Who. I'm not continuous, obviously, but that'd be...
that would be interesting.
Yeah, someone feel free to who is the actor who has the longest time in Doctor Who? All right, now I'm going to say just Nicholas Courtney. Courtney, feel free to contradict me.
Interesting. And I like the fact that his family continues. Again, Kate takes over Unit, and then, of course, in the most recent Christmas special, we see his father.
Yes. I'm trying to remember whether his father or grandfather. But yeah, I would think so, yes.
So I like the idea of this family continuing on.
Yeah, I think the thing that struck me about, I'm going to call him the Colonel in this episode, is that he's so always professional. And, even when he might be scared or when there's no hope, but he's sort of the solid bastion of, he's not even a stiff upper lip. It's not like that. He's just very, I'm not panicking. This is what we're going to do, Doctor. What should we do?
Keep calm and carry on.
Exactly. And so I think that's maybe attraction to him because I think what little I've seen of his character, often the Doctor will criticize him for often taking the soldier route, and sometimes he does, shoot instead of, Sonic. I think that is sort of the interesting thing of the character because he's always very open with the Doctor, right? There's a lot of people who are questioning the Doctor in the Web of Fear and he's like, I don't know. He seems to know what he's talking about. Let's just do what he says.
Move on,
he seems to be in charge here, And so it is very interesting. So yeah, I thought it was cool to watch. Just a little tangential things about the Web of Fear. This is one of the lost episodes that has been recently found. And so we were very lucky to watch 5 of the 6 episodes. I think it's episode 3 that was still restored, which just meant titles and audio.
Yeah, that sounds right.
But it was actually, I enjoyed the quality. It was almost like watching a horror film sometimes. It sort of had this sort of old-time monster movie.
Yeah, and being in the underground, and you've got all this darkness and enclosed spaces and things that you can do interesting things. I also, particularly because I just watched the Snowman Christmas episode, the idea of the intelligence is really... because that comes back in with the Snowman episode. I was like, hey.
Yeah, because the 11th Doctor has like a lunch pail with the London Underground map in it or something that he throws at it or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Which I thought was a little silly, but I got it.
And somebody says something. It might even be Vostra or Jenny, it's like, oh, so now he knows the weak links of the London Underground or something like that.
Yeah.
Sort of this callback, but that was fun. I enjoyed that.
And speaking of this episode, now I also thought this was interesting. This is a sequel episode or a sequel serial.
Yes.
That this is off the top of my head, so I might be wrong. I think this is the 5th or 6th serial of this series, and the second one was the Abominable Snowman, which was Professor Travers and the Yeti and the Great Intelligence. And so I think it's cool that Doctor Who, even back then, just 2 or 3 serials later, revisits these characters, and they sort of quote-unquote have aged, but you get to meet them again and see what's happened, and I thought that was kind of cool. Yes. And, of course, this all ended up tying in to a little book that we read this month.
Yes, because the second Mr. Doctor, also known as Mr. Second, Dr. Second, which I got for my February book, is about the Yetis as well.
Yeah. So you got to read about Jamie and Victorian and Yeti before meeting them.
Before I got to see them, yeah. So that was exciting. Mm-hmm. And their television remote control, which is weird.
Yes. So, darling, what are we talking about next week?
Well, since I've just finished watching the Snowman Christmas episode, it made me think maybe we should pick a Christmas episode and talk about that.
Sure. And since we're talking the 11th Doctor, we thought we'd stay with him for a moment and talk about what's my favorite Christmas episode, actually, of all time, but of the 11th Doctor's as well. I don't know if it is of yours, and that is A Christmas Carol.
Yes. Well, it's one of my favorite stories anyway. And I think it's one of the first episodes that you showed me after the 50th anniversary. So yeah, it holds a very special place in my heart. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the Christmas Carol Christmas episode.
And if people want to talk to you about any of your other thoughts about Amy, Clara, River, and all of the other 11th Doctor companions, where can they reach you?
They can find me at One Phoenix Theater.
And if folks want to talk to me about my thoughts about Christmas specials, they can find me at NC Public Servant. And they can also listen to me here on the network each and every week talk about Star Trek on City Alpha 3, a Star Trek podcast with my two Star Trek companions, Daniel Prue and Darren Moser.
Dude, did you just use our podcast to plug your podcast, the one you do without me?
It's when I also plug our podcast on theirs as well.
Okay, fair enough.
Yes. Well, until next week, darling, you're my favorite companion in all of time and space.
Aww.
This is BBC Television.